This is my 2016 Porsche Boxster Spyder, and unfortunately, this is a farewell video. But I do want to tell you a little bit about what makes this car special. In 2016, Porsche brought out the Boxster Spyder, and what they finally did was put the 911's motor in the smaller mid-engine car. This car was really focused on being lightweight. If you optioned it with the lightweight buckets and the Porsche carbon ceramic brakes and the radio and air conditioning deletes, you could get the car with a curb weight of 2,899 pounds. This car is a relatively heavyweight version. It does have the lightweight buckets, but it has the steel brakes and it has the Bose stereo and navigation, and it weighs just over 3,000 pounds, which by modern standards is a pretty lightweight car. Porsche did this by optioning a manual roof and sticking with the standard Boxster suspension components rather than taking the suspension from the GT4 and putting it on the car. This car is a decent amount lighter than the GT4, even though it shares the powertrain with it for the most part. Porsche did put a smaller throttle body and smaller intake runners on this car compared to the 911S, so it makes less power. There is a power difference. One of the other disadvantages of this car is that both the GT4 and the Spyder have somewhat peaky power curves. There's some dips and valleys in the power curve. Those can be tuned out, but it is definitely one of the things that the 981 did not get totally right. So 911 motor in a mid-engine car sounds great. It's lightweight, it's lighter than a 911, and it's really a fantastic car. This particular car did not happen to be designed by the GT division, and it gets a little bit of hate and derision for that, but I think it's very undeserved. This is a great car. It was designed for the best street driving experience possible. It's set up more neutrally than the GT4. The GT4 actually understeers a decent amount. I found this car is very, very neutral and does like to hang the tail out. You can swing the car around. It definitely doesn't understeer at all. It has smaller wheels and tires than the GT4 and is set up with a smaller front tire ratio front to rear. This car has 235 35 20s up front and 265 35 20s in the rear. So the difference in size between the front and rear tires are quite a bit less. The smaller front tires also give it a little bit more steering feel than the GT4, as well as shipping it with normal street tires rather than the Pilot Sport Cup 2s. I think this car handles really well. It's very, very neutral. It will snap around on you if you are not careful, but it is really fun to drive, and it's a very, very lively setup. The steering and turn-in is good as electric power steering can be. It certainly doesn't have as much feeling as some of the old hydraulic racks, but there is a decent amount of feedback that comes to the wheel, especially for an electric power steering system. And the steering is quick and accurate and works really well. The brakes are also a little bit smaller. These are the brakes off the Carrera S rather than the GT3 style brakes on the GT4, but they do stop the car, and the car being a little bit lighter weight does work really well. Alright, so I've been telling you how great this car goes, turns, and stops, but what I haven't mentioned is how fantastic they sound. These cars have a really nice harmonic that the exhaust note turns just guttural and really thick and interesting sounding as the revs go up. The motor only revs to about 7,700 RPM, which is pretty high in terms of traditional engines, but lower than a lot of modern naturally aspirated sports cars. But this has all the best characteristics of a good naturally aspirated engine. Good throttle response, really nice sound, good change in pitch as the RPMs come up, and a great shifter to go along with it. The shifter in the 981 Spyder and in the GT4 is positive and direct, with very little play and good tight throws. The clutch on the 981 is a little bit heavy compared to modern Porsche clutches, but has better feel. It does have a slightly long stroke, so it's something that takes a touch of getting used to. So what are the downsides of this car? Well, there aren't that many. The main thing is it just doesn't handle on the track like some of the more track-focused models does. It's not as fast in the track. It's not designed for that application. It's really designed for the street. It's probably a little on the oversteery side to put down really good lap times. It doesn't have the tire grip or the suspension damping to work with more aggressive tires. Other than that, I mean, these are great cars, and with only 800 or so of them delivered to the US and only one model year, I think that these are going to be worth something someday. It'll take some time for people to stop comparing them to other modern Porsches from a pure objective numbers perspective. It's not the fastest car, it's not the best handling, it doesn't generate the most grip, doesn't stop the quickest, but I really think that these guys have some long-term potential, and I really wish I could keep this and had the garage space to do so. But I don't, and yeah, letting this one go for now and saying farewell.